Now, the head of the OECD Centre for Responsible Business Conduct, Allan Jorgensen, says alignment of stakeholders around sustainability is a critical step for Guyana's mining future. Now, in a chat with CNBC Africa at the Mining in Motion conference in Accra, he notes if Ghana, through its strategy for large-scale artisanal and small-scale mining, can align with international expectations, there's a chance for the country to be successful commercially. Have a look.
This conference makes a great impression, first of all. It's extremely important to see that the authorities, the entire industry, all the stakeholders are here to have this conversation together. And there is a broad-based realization that if we do not get sustainability right, then the future for this sector will not be possible in Ghana. So I think this is an important first step to have all stakeholders aligned around that vision. Then, of course, how to do it is another matter. And there is no single silver bullet as to how to get it right. But this is an important moment to get it right, this initial alignment around really understanding that there is no other way than to get the sustainability right.
Yeah, because I would love your take on because the minister's presentation today kind of opened our eyes to a whole lot that's been playing out here. Yes, we've seen those headlines come in piecemeals, but now seeing the overall overarching strategy and how they're going about it is also very important. And I'd like you to speak to that. You know, the strategy that the country is using to address this situation to make sure that all the stakeholders are more sustainable.
What is really important about this strategy is that it's also informed by international experience, which is part of why the OECD exists, to kind of exchange and build that international experience. Today, we actually have 80% of processed gold in the world is audited according to OECD sustainability standards. OECD standards on responsible sourcing of minerals have been around for many years, and there is actually a whole international ecosystem of regulators, market makers, refineries that are actually applying this system throughout the supply chain. So if Ghana, through its strategy both for large-scale mining, but specifically also for artisanal and small-scale mining, can align with these international expectations and practices, there is a large chance that this can be successful also commercially. We have to remember that sustainability also needs to be commercially sustainable. So you have to align with the right pricing structures and the incentives in the market, and those benefits need to accrue to everyone who's involved.
Yeah, you said something very important early on, which is yes, we want to identify what the challenge is, but it's how we're going to go about solving it is also as important as identifying the challenge here. And borrowing a leaf from some of the countries that you have looked at over the years, you know, what else do you think is missing in this piece of the pie?
I would say there's not a single specific thing that is missing. There is a lot of political will. There is actually quite a lot of awareness of what the issues are and what needs to be done better. There is, of course, a need to now make sure that the different initiatives actually get properly resourced, properly implemented in practice, and that also there is a degree of monitoring and transparency in how that happens. And this transparency is going to be key because you need the accountability among the different actors in the supply chain.
Yeah, because trying to find that balance between charting a cost for sustainability and also ensuring that businesses can still get a profit out of the industry is very important. You know, in striking that balance, what are some of the critical factors that should be considered?
Some of the critical factors that should be considered is to make sure that you are also creating a level playing field within the industry. Of course, if requirements are not uniformly enforced across the industry, it will be more difficult for the best in class to be competitive. But when we look at it more internationally, there really is no question that in order to be investable at an international level and in order to be a credible actor at an international level, mining operations really need to implement these international standards. So in the long term, there's really no doubt about the business case. The trick is in the short term to make that happen with the right incentives, but also right disincentives. For example, as we heard this morning, by looking at how licenses are awarded and what it takes to obtain a license, what is the monitoring, and how do we make sure that the practices are responsible and that we get that information out into the open.
Yeah, because in trying to formalize the artisanal mining space to get them to be a bit more formal, do we run the risk of losing productivity or productive time here? Because listening to the minister earlier today, they contribute 52% of the gold that was mined just last year. And how then can we strike that balance where yes, there's a journey to formalization with the regulators, but then there's no loss of productivity?
We have to make one thing clear, that is that perfection should not be the enemy of the good. So there is a large realization here that, especially when we talk about artisanal and small-scale mining, it's a process of continuous improvement. You cannot overnight turn the situation around. And this is also what the international standards actually allow for. They're not standards of perfection, but they are standards of improvement. So what you have to actually be able to show is that we're on the right path. We're not there yet, but we are on the right path. And this is important also for Ghana to be able to demonstrate to the market what are the measures being taken, also at the mine site, but throughout the entire system, and make sure that these measures are credible.
And the final part is the role of the communities here. Seeing the leadership come from traditional leadership here, very important. And because we've seen, especially with extractive industries, if the communities are not happy, that could put a whole stop to the entire business. And I'd like you to speak to that level of community engagement, especially to drive sustainability, because these communities are going to be living in the environment where the mining is taking place. And we'll talk about environmental pollution and all of that. Speak to why this is important as well, getting the communities involved.
Yeah. The license to operate from the communities is critical. We see everywhere in the world, a lot of places in the world, that large-scale mining projects actually stop and get delayed for many years because impacts to the community have not been taken seriously. This is very expensive for investors. It's very expensive for the public finances. So important measures to take is to really understand what are the likely impacts on the community? How do we bring the community along and make it a win-win solution for the community? When we're dealing with ASML, artisanal and small-scale mining, the community is really part also of the mining industry and can therefore also take ownership in some of the positive outcomes that you get from formalization.
The head of the OECD Centre for Responsible Business Conduct, Allan Jorgensen.